What's up, y'all? This is Mike Manza with another Manza Faust Productions video. Took a week off last week. There was a common problem people were having with their Vinegar Syndrome packages where they got split up in the shipping process. So I ended up getting all of my partner label and kind of VSL kind of stuff before I got the actual subscription titles, the monthly titles. So I didn't want to do my typical unboxing. I also ended up watching all of my partner label stuff and a couple of the VSLs already. I will talk about the VSLs in this video since it relates to Vinegar Syndrome directly. But I'm going to do another partner label focused episode of Stop, Watch, and Listen to go over what I watched in the past week. What I got in the package, and also, you know, I picked up a few records the other day that I want to talk about more on the kind of mainstream side, a couple of them, and a couple of them I've been after for quite a while in the metal and punk rock territories. So, yeah, that should be up tomorrow. But today, I'm going to focus on what I usually do in unboxing. Not going to do that this time for obvious reasons. And yeah, let's get into what the month has in for me and the rest of us. I haven't watched any of these yet, except, like I said, the partner, the VSL titles. Two of them I've watched. The box set I got from VSL, kind of a spoiler. Have not dove into yet, but I'm excited to. So let's start off with the big release for me from this month. Movie I've been after for a while. The Trauma DVD of it is way out of print by this point, I think. And like, just on a little bit of a rant, I'm not the biggest fan of the Trauma brand DVDs back in the day. I don't know much about their Blu-rays. I don't have anything by them on Blu-ray at this point. But I remember the DVDs were just chock full of like kind of useless shit that they would put on like every disc, like weird kind of convention footage and stuff. And I get there's like an audience for that kind of thing. There's people who really dig that kind of like man on the street sort of content. And, you know, Trauma is huge with that kind of thing. Lloyd Kaufman really has that DIY kind of just get everything on camera, a lot of interviews and stuff, and he's very pioneering in that sort of thing. I just feel like a little bit of like an advertisement for their other films is melded in there, and that kind of gets on my nerves. And I do really love their like film acquisitions that they get. The stuff they put their name on is awesome, and luckily Vinegar Syndrome has picked up a lot of these titles and actually given them like the kind of treatment that we as like film nerds would want. You know, proper interviews, proper documentaries, everything like that. They've been doing a great job with that this year, releasing a lot of titles. A lot of people wouldn't really consider like on a big mainstream level, but they're definitely titles people have been after for a while and want some really good restorations of, good features. So we start off the year with From Beyond, which is an amazing upgrade of that movie. Tons of stuff. The Terror of 10 Killer was actually kind of a surprise for me because that was a film I watched in like kind of a low quality VHS rip on YouTube, and I'm like, what is this? It's not really, it's kind of an underwhelming film look wise. I always liked the story. I thought the acting was excellent for the kind of low budget regional style film it was. But and when they announced it in 4K, I'm just kind of like scratching my head like, why? Because again, I saw it in a really low quality print, but watching the 4K, I'm like, wow, this is a very well made, amazingly shot film. And you know, it really does put more of an emphasis on like, hey, there is some really great acting in this. This is a pretty solid flick. So Yeah, so they have a history of doing these amazing upgrades of things that just a lot of people like myself would probably ignore just because the releases they would get were kind of these overblown with a lot of the wrong kind of features and the wrong kind of supplements. So anyway, getting to the release, we got, this is huge. This is Killer Condom. And admittedly, I don't know much about this aside from like just reading up online. You got this awesome slipcover artwork. I can't remember this homie's name, but they do some great stuff. They did the artwork for a couple of the Circle Collective. I believe it's the same person that did some of the Circle Collective titles, like, for example, Beauty Day and Heavy Metal Parking Lot, which is some amazing releases. You got the nice, you know, basic kind of artwork you get on the outer box. It's 4K. And Killer Condom, like, I've been after this one for a minute. This is actually one of, like, those trauma titles that really always kind of eluded me, you know. It's always like, I love that title. And it definitely has that vibe of the more over-the-top kind of stuff. But you got some big names behind this. The Killer Condom creature is designed by H.R. Geiger. Big fan of his work throughout. You know, his different album covers and effects work, and the influence he had on the Xenomorph from Alien. Just a huge influence on, like, art for me. How I view art, what I look for in art would be H.R. Geiger. Really excited about that. I believe effects work is done by, can never pronounce his name, but he did Necromantic and a couple of other films. Big fan of his kind of technical achievements, the way he will film effects and the way he uses different kind of practical applications and stuff like that. Very interesting to see all those different elements coming together in this film. And, you know, it's an over-the-top premise. It's got almost like a Frank Henenlotter kind of feel, I would imagine, which I'm all about. One of my favorite, you know, exploitation 80s directors. So yeah, really excited to dig into Killer Condom. And it's, like I've said, I've been wanting to see this for a while because the premise and the effects and everything about it just sound nuts. So I'm excited to dig into that. See how the 4K upscale looks. Really cool. One I am not really familiar with. I believe these are from Mexico. Brazil. Okay. So I'm excited about this. There's been some announcements recently of some Brazilian films I personally never thought would come out. And I'll talk about that in the future if I ever get that box set that Arrow just announced. Just psyched for that. Never thought that would happen. So Brazil has been getting a lot of attention lately. You know, and Brazil's a weird kind of country from what I've read up on it. You know, there's like a lot of lost film elements in that country. A lot of they're not great at preservation from what I've read. So, you know, and what's been great about the physical media kind of explosion of the last few years when it comes to places like Vinegar Syndrome and Arrow, Severin, Mondo Macabro, a lot of these 88 films, a lot of these kind of companies is they'll latch on to a kind of emerging interest in, say, a like regional kind of area or like a genre that's kind of regional based, and you know, it will strike up this interest, and a lot more movies in those kind of regions and those kind of movements will come to light and will get amazing releases. So with this, you know, that's pretty promising. And hopefully Vinegar Syndrome latches on like they have with Hong Kong, like they have with their giallos, like they have with a lot of these Mexican and Spanish releases. And Poland has been getting a lot of love from them as well. I'm going to talk about that when I get into the VSLs. So yeah, anyway, Brazil, excited to see this. And this is Amazon Jail 1 and 2. So these are a series, and what they're saying is the Mouth of Garbage film movement, big in the early to mid 80s. Not much known about these except for they are Brazilian. You got I'm trying to remember who the directors are, what else they have worked on. But you got 2 different films, and from, you know, separated 5 years apart, so I guess they have different elements throughout them. Definitely women in prison genre. Probably looks like it's mixed in with a bit of like kind of a Brazilian supernatural ghost story kind of thing. Obviously, like Coffin Joe is one of my favorite film series in the world, and that came out of Brazil. That was a very big franchise in Brazil, so you probably got a bit of that, a bit of the you know, extreme like exploitation kind of style of a lot of that South American kind of stuff. So yeah, really excited to dive into these 2, and they're pretty short. One of them's 93, another one's 74. Could definitely break out both of these in a single sitting, and excited to dive into these for sure. Very cool. And like I said, you know, hopefully this opens the door. If there's anything else in this kind of movement genre in that region, more should be on the way. Hell yeah. So this one I've been waiting for a long time, and I, in saying that, I might be a little bit wrong because I didn't watch the first volume in this yet, and I was kind of waiting for this. I wanted to kind of watch them all at once, which seeing that it's like 7 movies, and they're all pretty decent lengths. A couple of them are 2 hours. Most of them kind of clock in at that hour 30, hour 45 mark. So yeah, it's probably gonna take a while to watch all of these, but I'm excited about it because it is kind of more of a classic kind of South American filmmaking. I believe it's Mexican, right? Maybe it's Spanish. I don't know. Not great at these kind of things, but I'll learn once I watch them. So anyway, we got the Cardona Collection number 2. This features Beaks, Under Siege, La Casa, Arde, de Noche, and S.O.S. Conspiración Bikini. I tried. I'm not a Spanish speaker by any stretch. Great like artwork on these. I love it. Got the nice cover there. So yeah, these are range from 1967 to 1987. So these are all over the place. You got some stuff from the 60s, 70s, and 80s in the set. So you can kind of see a definite evolution throughout. Obviously, the Cardonas are a big time family of filmmakers throughout. Is it Mexico? Yeah, Mexican exploitation. Like, these are huge names. And this focuses on Rene Cardona Jr. Like I said, I don't know much about these. Got to dive more into them. And I still got that first box set to dive into. I've heard a lot of mixed reviews. Like, people who really like these kind of older kind of action adventure kind of, I guess there's a little bit of espionage, kind of spy plots to them and stuff. Definitely some horror elements. I get more of a horror elements from the films in this package. But people who are more open to those kind of things are not just looking for the crazy exploitation kind of sex romps that you get from Vinegar Syndrome. Kind of typically, they've got better reactions to this. A lot of people are just kind of underwhelmed. The films are longer, and you know, a lot of us, I feel like, are used to watching stuff in shorter lengths for sure. So. But I'm excited to dive into these. I like old school filmmaking from the 60s. It's kind of interesting to see how that was evolving out of what was like seen as like a studio system. And, you know, it was, at least in America, a lot of that was influenced by stuff coming out of Europe. And just seeing how these younger filmmakers who were raised kind of in a, you know, kind of the reading, the kind of zines and stuff back in the day, whatever you would call them, the kind of writers that were coming up at the time out of places like France and Italy, talking about like how, like, you know, really redefining what cinema should do and what focuses we should have within, like, what the camera's doing and what character you know, what character kind of can do, what we can do with characters, the type of characters we can talk about. You know, there's a lot to go into that kind of thing. So, like, seeing 60s filmmaking, seeing these kind of embryonic stages of, you know, stuff we take probably for granted a lot in independent and exploitation cinema these days. So, yeah, like, very cool to go back to a lot of that stuff and just get context at a historical kind of, you know, aspect to it. Is very fascinating to me. So I'm really excited to dive into a lot of these. Probably going to dedicate an entire video to these two sets. I have been wanting to do kind of like a box set kind of based series, and probably going to get into that pretty soon because I have a lot to talk about, and Vinegar Syndrome has just been cranking these fucking things out all year. So yeah, really excited to finally dive into these sets. And all right, so those are actually, let me rephrase that. So those are the main releases of the month, and like I said, those I have not watched yet. But this one I got early. It's a VSL release, and it came with the other two that I ordered. And VSL is interesting. I like when they announced it. It's kind of their more experimental label, stuff that they don't really know where it's going to go elsewhere on the label. Very interesting kind of concept, you know. I'm always about companies, especially Vinegar Syndrome, venturing out and trying different kind of things. And, you know, you have the partner labels, and they've been very helpful in exposing people to more modern films and some kind of lesser known genres. Definitely the amount of shot on video content that has been coming out is huge for somebody like me. But I also do love, you know, like a lot of what Deaf Crocodile is doing as far as digging into these kind of lesser known film movements and, you know, filmmakers. A lot of the stuff that is coming out through Fun City, these well-known names and big time directors and stars, but they're kind of lesser known works and these kind of more fringe kind of releases. Love a lot of that stuff, and the fact that they took on this VSL kind of line to kind of experiment, you know, take some chances on some genres they've never done, and they go all the way back to, you know, the beginning of film, you know, which is very cool. So I've been after these for a while. Got 3 of their releases, and all of them have been solid so far. The main one I have not watched yet, and that is definitely one I'll want to get into in a future video, preferably talking about box sets. So anyway, this one just was a ton of fun. And I was really excited about this because I am a big comedy nerd, and also I am a big fan of The Young Ones, the classic BBC sitcom, kind of off the wall kind of thing. And I love The Young Ones. It's great to see, like, they would always have the musical performances throughout the film, throughout the episodes, and you'd have like Motorhead and The Damned and Dexy's Midnight Runners, Madness, tons of really cool stuff, kind of spotlighted on the show, and just the jokes were ridiculous. You know, these memorable characters, Rick and Vivian, and they're kind of like headbutting, kind of like abusive relationship happening. You have Neil and you got Mike, like just all these characters from just extreme other sides of, you know, culture and, you know, morals and everything like that, kind of living in this small house apartment together. It's just, it's a blast. It's one of the funniest shows in history. It's one of my favorite television shows ever made. And they've been getting a lot of attention lately. Severin released their kind of organization, or, you know, troupe they came out of, the comedy strip over in UK. They released like a big, I think it's called like Bad News or something. I regret I have not picked that up yet. I've been really wanting to. And I've been wanting to dig into a lot of their stuff. So when I saw this announced, you know, with Rick Mayall and Adrian Edelston, let me just get the names right. Edmondson. So Rick obviously played Rick on The Young Ones, and was also in Drop Dead Fred, a film I'm not too big on. Vinegar Syndrome released it last year. I did check it out, and still, it's not really that kind of over-the-top, like, kind of anti-humor, gross-out, hyperactive kind of thing of the early 90s, and then later on would kind of turn into what we got with Jackass, which I do enjoy, and then you also got Tom Green, which I have never liked. I don't really enjoy his humor. I'm one of those people that's a pretentious cocksucker about Freddy Got Fingered being an unwatchable pile of garbage. Like, I really don't get that movie and the love that it gets. It kind of just made me angry. But whatever, to each their own. But yeah, so Drop Dead Fred didn't really do it for me. It was also an acquisition from Severin, and just I didn't really pay much attention to it. But, you know, the good thing about that coming out, you know, in retrospect, is you got this attention on Rick Mayall, who passed away a few years ago. So definitely want to represent a lot of the lesser known kind of achievements and works that he was a part of, and also to get Adrian Edmondson in this, who played Vivian. Actor I'm not as familiar with, but Vivian was always one of my all-time favorite characters in any kind of like comedy sitcom kind of thing. Just in, you know, as the punk rocker kind of, you know, prototype, archetype, whatever, like, just so fucking over the top and hilarious, and his kind of reactions. He's great at playing like extremely dumb. Like, all of his characters are just like really out there, dumbfounded, just like don't really give a fuck about anybody. Very sociopathic, psychopathic kind of thing, but in a fun way, in a very entertaining way. So I really enjoy that. So anyway, this shouldn't do it for me, because it does fit into that gross out kind of early 90s, just like aggressive, almost anti-humor kind of thing. But it does have that energy of The Young Ones, where it's just like, we're just doing crazy shit. None of it makes any sense. Like, people are getting the snot kicked out of them, but nobody actually like kind of dies. Like, it's all this kind of morbid, dark humor, but it's very playful. It's very silly, and it's not, you know, it's also that kind of thing, like everything they do to try to make everything work while it's all falling apart around them, and they just blatantly make it worse, and they're just creepy, unlikable people, but watching them is hilarious and fun to see them just like make asses of themselves and embarrass everyone around them, and you know, just it's so much fun watching these kind of characters. So yeah, we got Guest House Paradiso. So this is from, I love that cover, by the way, just insane. It's like, you know, ultra violent Dumb and Dumber kind of cover image. This is from 1999, so this is a lot later than I would have imagined. So this is not early 90s, my bad. But it's definitely got that feel. It's very British, very just like dumb humor, very punny. The Rick Mayall's character is named Mr. Twat, which he keeps, you know, correcting everyone and saying, no, that's twat. That kind of dumb humor. I love this. It was just silly all the way through. Basically, Rick Mayall is kind of the owner of this bed and breakfast kind of hotel in the middle of nowhere. It's next to like some crazy nuclear power plant, and there's this giant ocean next to it. It's probably radiated to shit. That comes into play very much later in the film, and this is like the worst hotel in all of, you know, in the UK. Just like just awful. They don't know what they're doing. People are trying to check out, and like there's some poisonings that happen, and you know, everybody on the staff is quitting out of nowhere, and they're all beating the shit out of each other. Adrian Edmondson plays the guy who he's kind of like the help or the head kind of like assistant in the hotel. You know, takes the baz, works as a bellboy, but he also is in charge of, you know, preparing meals, getting the chef to prepare meals, and it pretty much falls onto the both of them because the chef very early on fucks off, and you know, so it's the both of them going back and forth trying to take care of, you know, these very crazy characters that come through the hotel who are probably already staying there from the beginning, but then throughout the film more people come on, come through the hotel to stay there. You got a kind of Italian kind of sex symbol starlet kind of character who's trying to get out of the public eye and dodge their sketchy husband or boyfriend, who does come into the picture later on as well. You also got this family of 2 kids and the husband and wife. The husband played by Simon Pegg in a very early role, and it's definitely a Simon Pegg kind of role, you know, kind of submissive, kind of very over-the-top still British kind of character. Very entertaining watching him. There's like, you know, they put the kids kind of unwillingly in the care of Adrian Edmondson's character a few times, and that gets a little uncomfortable, but it's played off well. It doesn't go for those kind of uncomfortable, like way too mean-spirited shock kind of moments. It's not mean-spirited at all, in my opinion. This was a lot more of a kind of just like playful kind of romp and like just goofy characters. Like I said, very British. There's like kind of an innocence in the humor throughout this, and it's not malicious, and you know, it's just very entertaining. I had a lot of fun. The ending is utterly disgusting. I'm gonna tell you that right off the bat. It gets gross, but it's still fun. You know, I was laughing my ass off. I'm like, I can't believe they're doing this. This is just ridiculous. And it's pretty much the humor I would expect from the people behind the young ones. And yeah, so if you get the chance to check this out and you enjoy that kind of over-the-top British humor you love, like Faulty Towers and a lot of the more over-the-top kind of BBC sort of stuff, definitely check this out. It's a lot of fun. So yeah, as far as the VSLs are concerned, I picked up a couple more. Still got a couple I need to get. I have not got the Cat Creeps, which I'm really excited to check out, and I have not picked up the other one about the giant kind of monster. But that looks pretty good too. I've heard some mixed reviews on that one. But, you know, that's to be expected. They are, you know, experimenting with these films. It's Vinegar Syndrome Labs, you know, these films that they have the rights to and acquisitions to and stuff. But they don't really know where to put them yet. So that's, you know, the fun of experimentation, you know, and it helps them branch out, which they've been doing a great job of the last few years. So this was awesome. This release. This is the first one, I believe, or second. So they were announced. The first two were kind of announced around the same time. It was this big kind of unveiling at the beginning of the year. So I was really happy to get this and finally watch it. It's an anthology, and I've been really interested the past few years in digging into old anthology films. Not so much I've been talking about on this channel, but yeah, probably in the future, another possible kind of reoccurring series could be on anthologies. A lot of them are finally becoming more available, so that's definitely very cool. And this is from, I believe, the 40s. Yeah, 1943. We got Flesh and Fantasy. And this was not as dark, oddly enough, as I had anticipated. It's kind of just a very well-made 40s, not even really horror, just kind of psychological. Definitely has a psychological element. It's definitely dealing with kind of body image kind of stories and kind of social kind of things, and just it's very interesting. I like the wraparound of just, you know, this guy talking about, you know, he's, I can't really remember. This is definitely one of those films you kind of put on and just kind of plays in the background for me. But I enjoyed it. You know, I like the stories all linked together very well. It's very lighthearted, in my opinion, at least, you know, judging from what I've been viewing today. You got an amazing cast of the time. Everybody's really great. And it's not that over-the-top kind of acting I would associate with, like, 40s and 50s. This definitely has... they're playing it like a film noir at the time, very like kind of, you know, held back, but very it's shot beautifully. Like the way they light these characters is just magnificent, and you know, everything feels big, but it does feel very well contained. You know, these are very, you know, straight ahead, very relatable stories in a way, you know, talking about, you know, self-image and kind of greed at times, and really diving into, like, how we treat others and how that can kind of affect us and come back to us. There's some morality tales in here for sure. Just very, very, very nice little film from the 40s, and I like how Vinegar Syndrome's taking chances with this stuff and diving more into these kind of way back, because, you know, typically it's like 60s through 90s that they're well known for, and seeing them dive into like the 40s and a lot of these films will not get noticed because they'll come out on Kino or they'll come out on Film Detective, these kind of other kind of lesser labels, but they won't get over to the type of people that are more into like the exploitation and genre kind of fare, which I definitely fall into. And this just kind of opens up their eyes to this like other kind of genres and such. So yeah, I'm really excited about this line, and this was definitely very enjoyable. I definitely had a good time with it. So yeah. So I'm gonna end this with another one I need to watch. Like I said, I'm probably gonna do a box set kind of focused episode on this, but this is very cool. We got a Polish filmmaker here. Poland's been kind of the focus of a couple of the partner labels. I know Yellow Veil has been releasing a lot of films from Polish directors lately, the Hourglass Sanitarium being one of them, and I want to check out a lot of those as well. Yellow Veil, great fucking label. But yeah, so we got the Apocalypse Tetralogy by Piotr. I can't pronounce it. You'll have to do that on your own. But this looks like a blast. You got these 4 science fiction dystopia kind of stories. You know, decent lengths on these, you know, between 84 and, you know, about 100 minutes. So pretty consumable set of 4 films. Dystopian, you know, definite like reactions to like technology and how that affects like life and our, you know, bodies and everything like that. So very interested in diving into this. Poland's kind of a film, a cinema culture that kind of eludes me. Musically, it's tough to get into Polish music for me because, you know, as far as black metal and punk rock kind of stuff goes, there is a lot of sketchy, you know, Nazi kind of shit coming out of that country. But, you know, there's some good shit as well. I mean, Vader is an amazing band, and some of the early punk rock stuff that would come out of Poland is definitely very good. But, you know, cinema I'm not that knowledgeable about from that part of the world. I've been getting more into it, trying to dig more into stuff from Czechoslovakia, which had a huge cinema culture for many years. No idea about that. Russian filmmaking, a lot of stuff coming out of Finland I've been wanting to get into as well. You know, I know Sweden, I know a lot of that kind of more Scandinavian kind of stuff. There's some stuff from Norway that was pretty cool, but all these other countries kind of elude me, and been wanting to dive more into that. So this is definitely something I am excited about digging into. So yeah, definitely fun. You get this nice booklet. Yeah, not much to say there, but really love these kind of featured booklets, and they have been doing an excellent job. You know, getting together, you know, the different writers and interesting kind of, you know, pieces for these booklets. So yeah, very cool. So I'm excited to dig into those, and yeah, so later on, probably tomorrow, I'm gonna have a video up about, you know, the kind of partner label stuff that came this month, and, you know, what I've watched in the past week, and some awesome pickups I had as far as records. And yeah, I also got later on in the week, haven't decided on what label I'm gonna do. I have one really strictly in mind, but that might change. I'm gonna do the monthly getting to know your partner label episode, so that is definitely coming later on in the week. So I'm excited to talk about whatever label I come down to. I'm gonna leave that as a surprise for all of you. So yeah, if you've watched any of these, go down in the comments, you know, how was the frustration, if you dealt with any, as far as, you know, the separated packages and the kind of shipping issues. Like, I always have a problem with shipping in my part, because not, you know, I'm right down the street from Bridgeport. You know, it shouldn't take this long to get to me, and it ends up taking a week sometimes, because it goes to New Jersey and Massachusetts. It just goes back and forth in these ridiculous ways. And, you know, I don't know dick about the postal service or how any of that works, but it really doesn't make any sense. It gets kind of annoying, but once I get it, you know, there's a kind of relief that comes over me. And yeah, so, you know, if you like a lot of these releases, you want to talk about like some stuff you're looking forward to, you know, so want to recommend some releases people pick up. I know there's been a ton of VSAs this year. I need to catch up on a lot of those. So if you have any recommendations for those, that would be awesome. Put them down there in the comments. You know, like and subscribe if you have not done so yet. I've been getting a lot of subscribers suddenly since the beginning of August. Just, yeah. And I love the reactions from all of you. You know, it's really good community that I got going here, and we're all a part of. And, you know, I'm just one voice in, you know, the realms of many. So yeah, that'll about do it. So my name is Mike Manzer. This has been another Manzer Faust Productions video, and stay fucking metal.